I've trained myself to stay out of the comment section.
Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for beer.
Good morning, guys, and welcome. This is Behind the Beards, where we pull the curtain back, take a look behind the scenes, and try to reveal the things that we think you need to know about those who are called to lead your churches and your church ministries. I'm Josh Fowler. I'm a preaching minister in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My partner, my brother, my good friend over here on that side of the screen. Got to figure out this mirroring thing. Aaron Partlow, a youth minister in Topeka, Kansas, a world away from South Louisiana.
No joke.
It's good to have you. Good to have you guys here. We're glad you decided to join us. Before we get into our just kind of regular comments here, think about a time when you first met a friend of yours. Those first kind of awkward conversations. If you remember some things about those, drop it in the comments. Let us know you're here, and we'll start telling some of those stories. So what's going on, man? You doing all right?
We're doing good. We're doing okay. We're in a season of transition at Central. So it's I'll be honest, it's really weird right now. It's public news, so I can share. Our senior minister Terry took a job in Mansfield. And we're excited for him. And Sunday was his last Sunday to preach. So that kind of really hit home. At the same time, we had 4 of our 7 elders retire or announce their retirement at the first of the year. So we have a lot of transition dynamics going on at Central right now. And so being the youth minister on staff with the children's minister and just trying to not hold things together, because it's not like things are breaking up, but it's just that transition. And so I think people are kind of hurting and kind of going through that. So we are seeing what the future kind of holds and see what it looks like. So that's how we're doing.
Yeah. Well, hey, transition is tough, right? I mean, because it doesn't matter how obvious any one of us thinks that the coming transition is,
right?
It still catches so many people by surprise.
Well,
and I remember it was a good friend of mine, one of my elders, when I left, Kansas City, and I had told them the time I got there, it was I wanted to preach.
Right.
They knew I wanted to preach, and they knew that we had a desire and a belief in a certain way. And it came up every elders meeting, and it wasn't, have conflict there.
Right.
There was just a friction between what I believe God was calling us to do and the path that they felt like God was calling them to take. And so when kind of things finally came up and, we had this opportunity to move and we took that job, one of my guys said, and a good friend, we had lunch once a week. He said, "This really surprised me." I'm like, "Really? How?" Because some things that seemed obvious to me, I guess, just weren't obvious to others. And so that season of transition really is challenging for a lot of people because it kind of catches us off guard. So,
yeah, I was gonna say even knowing, Terry let the congregation know a month ago. So we've had them this entire month of November, but and even knowing that some of our shepherds were going to retire at the first of the year, it's still hard. And I'm excited for those guys. I'm excited for Terry. I don't want Terry to go. Love Terry. But I am excited for what God's called him to do there. And so I'm excited for him. But to be on that other side and to be, ministry team and then to help other people kind of walk and grow through this. So it's just been kind of really an interesting time here at Central. A lot of listening, I guess, is a major part of my job description right now is is Big Ears. Big Ears, because there's not a whole lot you can say, but you can just listen. It's almost like, this sounds really bad, but it's almost reminds me of grieving a loss of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah.
So Terry, if you're watching, I don't think you are, but shout out to you. 11, almost 12 years at Central in Kansas, and you have done the Lord's work. And I know that you'll do the Lord's work in Mansfield, Texas. And you and Cindy are an awesome role model and couple, and we wish you the best. How are you doing, Josh? How's the hurricane cleanup going? Are you doing okay?
Well, we've moved from hurricane cleanup to hurricane prep, because we've got another one in the Gulf that's barreling down the pipes and headed our way. So it's supposed to make landfall right around New Orleans Wednesday afternoon. So,
man,
yeah, you know, it's
but
2020.
We're still having church Wednesday night.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The doors will be open. But
I was laughing at Jonathan here. You know, in answer to the question, I feel that because I don't have those stories of it was awkward or that weird kid, maybe he was. Yeah, he's the one making it awkward for everybody else, I guess.
I will
tell you. I remember the first time I really met my wife. And you talk about an awkward time. We had met briefly at Neat Week, which is no longer Neat Week. I think now it's called Earn Your Wings at Oklahoma Christian. It was for all the incoming freshmen. And, you know, we had crossed paths just in kind of hi-bye. So, you know, we had seen one another. But I had a friend at Oklahoma Christian, and she said, "Hey, I got this girl that I really think you would like. I think you should meet her." I'm like, "Okay, sure." And so it was rush week. So we're right in the middle of rush. I'm rushing Kappa. And so we're standing in the line to get into the CAF after chapel.
It's a great place to meet your future wife.
It is perfect. You know, we call it, you know, the MRS Central, right?
That's right. That's where I met Lauren.
And so she walks up and she says, "Hi, I'm Heather." It's like, "Hi," you know, and we talked for a second. And my big brother, whose name is J. Wyatt Earp.
J. Earp.
He walks up and he goes, "Hey, Fowler, we're going to Johnny's. You want to come?" And so now I'm looking at this girl that I just met and this guy that's a member of this social club that I'm trying to get into so we can play intramurals and all that. And I'm like, "Hey, I'll call you later." And then I walked out of the student center with Jay Earp and hopped in the back of his truck and gave a wave as we drove off to Johnny's. And the rest is history. I've been married for 23 years.
That's love.
But, you know, those awkward moments of those first encounters, right?
Right.
They can be, sometimes they just kind of flow naturally. But more often than not, first conversations for one party are, a little awkward.
Well, I met Lauren, and it wasn't awkward at all. I told her that she was beautiful and that I love her, and that was history right there. And that is the official story of how I first introduced myself to Lauren. And if anyone tells you anything else, it's a lie.
Even if it's Lauren. Huh?
That's right. Especially if it's Lauren. I love her, but man, she lies about that story all the time. So we're talking about icebreakers today. What's the point of an icebreaker? You know, obviously, like the point of an icebreaker is to break the ice, right? Is to get people moving, to get people talking. Josh and I were talking before the show, and I said, you know, an icebreaker really doesn't make or break your youth event as a whole, like if it's a retreat, but it really makes or break like that first couple of hours. And I guess like for me, it's like that's what's gonna if you're gonna get the fire going, you know, if you've got wet, soggy logs and you're trying to get a fire going, and you don't have the right combustion stuff to really dry things out and get things going hot, like it's going to take you a while to get that fire going, but you can get that fire going. But if you've got, lighter fluid and you've got matches, or even a blowtorch, I've seen like guys come out with like a propane blowtorch and they're like, and then it's like this roaring fire. And they're like, that's how we get her done. And I'm like, yeah, it is. That's awesome. And I love it. Then you can get your youth event going. And I think a good icebreaker really makes a big difference. What do you think, Josh?
I hate icebreakers. All right. Hate icebreakers. I think I hate icebreakers because I'm terrible at coming up with them. Because for me, I don't need an icebreaker.
Right.
I walk up to you and talk to you. I find random people in Walmart to talk to or in the parking lot. I'll make just comments to people just as a way of, breaking the tension between humanity, And so it took me a long time to realize the point in it, because what I want to say is just get over yourself, go introduce yourself to somebody, and let's just be human together.
Are you talking to your kids now?
I might be talking to my wife.
I feel like I've stood next to you when your son or daughters walked up and you've said that exact same thing to them. Get over yourself, go talk to somebody.
Yeah. And so, I really struggle for a long time with those. But then once you start seeing how they work, when you give someone an excuse to be awkward with other people, and a reason to be awkward other than I'm just an awkward person in this situation, now there's no pressure, because even though it's what I wanted to do initially, now I'm being forced to do it because it's on the schedule. And so, I've seen it work to really bring people together in a way that's very unique and corny, but at the same time, that awkwardness kind of then becomes on me as a camp director, or as a supervisor, and that awkwardness is taken off of the kids, because now it's me making them do this awkward, corny thing.
Yeah.
And you see those barriers just kind of completely come apart. And so, we talk, do we have to do an icebreaker even if there's nobody new in the place and everybody knows one another?
Right.
And yeah, because it takes all of that tension, because I might know you, but it's still awkward when we talk.
I think it really, I think actually sometimes you need to do it more when there's nobody new in the group. Because for my youth group, they will when we start a retreat, they are too cool for school. And by the time we leave a retreat, they are a silly, sloppy, messy, funny group that talks and gets along with everybody and has all these inside jokes and all this kind of stuff with the group that was there. And it's awesome. And it's really funny and it's really good. And that's what you want, because you're trying to build an environment in a group. So one of the best icebreakers that we had done, and shout out to Rebecca Witt. She's probably not watching either, but nobody watches my podcast. It's fine. But we did this really cool. No one touched the flamethrower. Maybe it's because I called it a flamethrower. That's true. Okay. So we did this retreat and we called it heavy lifting, which, by the way, this was awesome. This was the most church-wide involvement that I'd ever had. I had this guy, Manuel Martinez, who's packing 12 inchers, he brought his weightlifting bench out there. He put it in the corner, and we put those plastic water jugs on the end of them, and he's over there like the whole time. I wanted it when kids walked into the room, it felt like they were walking into like a sweaty, gross gym. And so I actually had damp cloths that I had hung in there for 24 hours before. So it smelled damp a little bit, like wet dog. I went all out. I had a shepherd build a juice stand and
Nice.
wore an outfit and stood in the corner, and he was mixing juices for people to drink after they had worked out. I had other people who were like doing like yoga classes or hula hoop classes and stuff like that. So when you walked in, your first impression was like, what is this, like Planet Fitness or something? Like, what is going on? It was awesome. I had workout bikes, everything. Like, people just came together. But the cute thing was, is I have a video of it too, but Manuel, who's got these big old 12-inch arms, is doing this lift. And then his daughter, who was like maybe like third grade, she was like, I want to. And so he got off, and then he stood behind, and she was doing those giant jugs, the bench press, and he was like spotting her. It was like really adorable. But the icebreaker, which is what I'm getting to, I had to set the scene. I had Rebecca Witt came out. She came busting in, and I don't know if you've ever seen the Judy Shepherd Miss It jazzercise videos on YouTube.
Yes, I have.
They are horribly hilarious. I mean, she just really gets into it. So Rebecca and my wife, Lauren, both come in once I get all the kids like with 5 feet apart, almost look like social distancing, but they were all spread apart. They came walking in, all right, and like getting everyone pumped up. And then we played these videos, and they did this jazzercise thing for like maybe like 20 minutes. And like the point was, I sent it to all the counselors. I said, I need you to not memorize this, but I need you to like get into this. I need you to have her energy in this. And at first, like you got kids who are like, you know, or just standing there not doing it, but you get the counselors doing it. Then you get like, you just got to get one teen. You get one teen to get into it, and it just is like this infectious thing, and it spread. And what happened was, what that icebreaker did was it made everybody just go, all right, well, we're all here to just like look silly, and this is obviously ridiculous. So let's just go ahead and be ridiculous. And it broke down all those barriers, but it was such a funny icebreaker. And it was worth every penny of it. It was so good.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
It was awesome.
It sounds like one I'm really sorry I missed. I think I'm going to have to hear a story about a Bible Busters shirt that your dad's talking about here. So
to be fair, I don't know what shirt he's talking about. Bible Busters was a program. It's just a memorization kind of thing that the kids at the Oregon City Church of Christ. I don't know if they still do it, but they did. That was the first church program that I ever named. Who you gonna call?
Really?
Bible Busters.
I
wrote a theme song, and I brought it to our preacher. I remember singing it to him on the phone. I said, hey, Ron, I have a great name for the kids program. They used to do it like 15-30 minutes before church on Sunday night. And I said, we could call it Bible Busters. And you could be like, if you got a question about the Bible, who you gonna call? Bible Busters. You know, I was so cool. I could just imagine the grace and mercy that Ron Murphy is his name, the pulpit minister, had when he went,
oh, mercy.
The Partlows are calling.
Goodness. Well, one of the things with I think typically the understanding is everybody gets together, you have an icebreaker, and then you're done with them for the week. That is not the case, because when teenagers sleep at night, they wake up with those same walls reconstructed. They construct them in their sleep, in their dreams somehow. And so all of those things that you spent tearing those things down and bringing that camaraderie together, that builds up overnight. So every morning you got to come in and you got to renew that sense of vulnerability is really what it is about, you know. And not to answer our final question too quickly, but
no joke.
so many of the ones are the ones that get them moving as well, right? So they come in, we have breakfast, they're tired. We've been out till midnight the night before. It's early in the morning. And one of my favorites were the Bible, the church appropriate dance moves.
Oh, that's my favorite video.
Yeah, so you have do the David, whoo, and flinging the slingshot. Do the Lot's wife.
Yeah,
and
salt. If you guys have not seen that video, I will link that in the comments below after the show. You can watch that. It is golden.
And you can see, right? I mean, when it begins, there's 20, 30, 50, how many of your kids you have there, and they're standing there looking, going, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And then you stop it, and it's like, hey, by the way, we're not leaving here until we really have some widespread participation. So we're going to play this again, and we're going to start over. And then you kind of start seeing a little bit of movement. And then you start seeing a lot of movement, and then you start seeing them looking at each other and laughing because they're hilarious. And especially when you can associate them with that Bible story and the move that's going on. And it's just like, after you've been through something like that together, like the rest of the day, it's like, what could be more awkward than what we just went through together? So
that's such a good, I'm so glad you reminded me of that. That is such a good video. That is so funny. Oh, there's a Spanish version. That's interesting.
I'm sending that to my Spanish minister.
That's right. That's awesome. Any other well, I guess if you're terrible at thinking of icebreakers.
No, you have there's all kinds of things, right? I mean, they're not all active. I guess they are all active because they get us moving around. Yeah, we have the two circles, where the circle's spinning it one way on the inside, another way on the outside. And wherever you stop, you got to ask the person in front of you a certain question.
Nice. My favorite one that we have done, and this is, again, I think Lauren, this is where she's really good at icebreakers. She's also really good at reeling me in on icebreakers so that they're not like
too extreme.
Yeah, sometimes they get a little extreme.
But poor man's sumo for icebreakers.
That's right. Well, yeah. But the one that I loved that we did was that we did speed dating.
Oh yes.
So we set up all these nice chairs, and I had all the ladies sit down, and I had all the guys line up, and we did friend. We didn't call it speed dating. We called it something else, something to do with like friend dating or something, friend zoned or something. I don't know. But I had all these kids sit up, and my favorite part about it was the first 5 questions were like really generic. So on the PowerPoint, I would put the question that they had to talk about. So they didn't have to come with the question or anything. They just had to ask each other the question, and they had 2 minutes. So it started off with like, what's your favorite color? Where do you go to school? What's this? And then it ended up being like, what's your, I'm trying to think of one that I'd actually want to put. Anyway, they just started getting like really, really ridiculous, like towards the end, like, do your best impression of an orca. So then all of a sudden people are like, you start hearing all these weird sounds because you got like 1 or 2 kids who'll do it, and then you get other people who start doing it, and then they're looking for like the really funny questions as they're going. I think the one that made me laugh the most was oh, now I can't remember what it was, but anyway, we just did that, and that worked out so well. And the kids loved it, and it lasted a long time. But then everybody got FaceTime with everybody almost.
Yeah. I think I need to get to know Steve Haney.
That is my brother-in-law.
Oh, okay. It's always scary when a partlow calls. Hey, you never know what's on the other line.
The associate minister at the Oregon City Church of Christ.
I'm pretty sure I also remember getting some pretty stern looks from Paige when we would ask him to do some things like, you can't be serious.
Really?
Actually, I can.
That's right.
It's fun stuff. you have the other one that seems to be pretty popular is you have a grid of life achievements or weird abilities. And you have to go find someone in the room that has those abilities. So you find yourself in a room saying, who has no molars?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Who's missing 7 bones in their body?
Who's been wearing the same socks for a week?
And you can, and the cool thing about those is, it's like, okay. And then the word gets passed around. It's like, oh, you're looking for that one? Oh, go see Josh. He can do that.
Yes.
Like, Josh can do that? So then it's like, I got to hear this story sometime, but not now because we're in a time crunch and we got to get our grid filled out. So
that's right.
And what I liked about preparing those was trying to find out, some unique things about the kids that are there that can go on a grid like that. And so some of those things were kind of what I really enjoyed. I also don't mind at all making a fool of myself. They always liked for me to lead the singing at VBS because I would sing the hippopotamus song and do the hippopotamus song dance.
That's right. Get into it.
Because the kids love it. The only one I won't do is Baby Shark. Like, that's not even close to being VBS related, okay?
Baby Jonah Whale.
And so just some really trying to find those creative ways of getting into them. Because, there is a point to them, right? And we've talked about some of the things. Yeah, 3 truths and a lie.
It is amazing how difficult that one is for some people sometimes. Or they'll just like tell 3 lies, or they'll just tell 3 truths. They'll be like, oh, I didn't get the point. Like, oh my gosh.
It is hard, 3 truths and a lie is because, it's hard to encourage people to tell a lie, right?
I have a good story about 3 truths and a lie after you're done.
Gotcha. But in order to get that one, it has to be believable enough.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be just, I went to the moon twice in 1 year. No, that's the truth. No, come on. But at the same time,
the moon, Missouri.
So yeah, go ahead. 3 truths and a lie. What's your story?
Well,
about 3
I
truths
was
and a
just
lie?
when I accepted the job and came to Central, they invited me over for dinner. I can't remember why Lauren couldn't be there. Maybe it was like she wasn't physically there yet or something. I have no idea now that I think about it. But I actually played 3 truths and a lie with the elders.
Oh, really?
So I sat in it with the elders, and I don't think Terry was there either. I think just Kathy was there. Actually, I think that's what it was. I think it was just with the elders and which means like everyone went except for Terry, basically, because Kathy was an elder's wife at the time. But anyway, yeah. So I got to sit there and played. I was reading my mom's comment. Thank you, Mom. Appreciate that. I sat there and had to play 3 truths and a lie with our elders, and not only our elders, but our elders' wives. And it was really, really difficult and hard, but it was a lot of fun. And I think that's just a fun game. Like if you ever get together with a senior adult group, I think that's a really fun game to play with them. Matter of fact, I actually think that would be really fun. I'm just now thinking I'm going to have our elders come into one of our Wednesday night Bible classes again. I actually kind of think that would be a really fun game for our teenagers to play against our shepherds. I think that's a really great icebreaker. If you have an icebreaker for your shepherds being involved and getting to know your youth, and your youth getting to know your shepherds, that's a really cool way. One, because I learned some awesome truths about Rex Abbott, who is like, not Abbott, Rex Allen, who is like, he's just lived like this amazing life. And his truths, I was like, there is no way that's true. You get Rex Allen, who he's a little bit feeble and but he's sharp as a tack. And he's like, I used to drive a Camaro with a racing stripe and race on the tracks. And you're like, okay, that's a lie. And he's like, oh no, I have pictures. I used to do it all the time. Like, what? It's just it's pretty crazy. People would not leave me alone.
Yeah. So this is on our Twitch feed that runs on the other side. He says, I think I can display this one here. Yeah. You have to be careful what you reveal in 2 truths and a lie. That is true. I told everyone I'd been a professional musician. That's true. Because then you have the old, hey, now you got to play for everybody. What?
Oh, right. I like these too. Steve said when we were in high school, we did a Bible class with the elders and had to, the point was to stump the elders with Bible questions. That's fun. We do what's it, LTC
Mm-hmm.
and Bible, is it Bible quiz or Bible Bowl where they have the blocks? Bible quiz,
Bible Bowl.
And we have our Bible
box.
Bowl light. We have our Bible Bowl teams line up, and then we have an elder team that plays as well. And if the elders lose, they buy everyone pizza. And I don't think the elders have not lost in like a couple years. They still buy them pizza though. They're good guys.
Yeah. And scavenger hunts are always good, right?
Our scavenger hunts are always great. Picture ones or whatever you can do to like do a good scavenger hunt. Yeah, for sure. As long as they're done safe.
What's the point of an icebreaker for you? I guess because we each have our own ideas about them. But
I think for me, the point of an icebreaker is to get rid of that first tension. I had a great speech coach who told me, he said, you actually have a lot of anxiety and nervousness when you start to speak. So when you get up there, say a big hello, or, and some big physical movement.
Yeah, big gesture.
And it gets rid of all of that extra energy so you can relax and speak. And I feel like whenever you start a youth event or whenever you start a youth rally or something like that, that same tensionness for the entire week is in that entire room. So if you can do something to get rid of that energy or to channel that energy, it's really good. That's why it's really important to have like that's why I always get in arguments with some people about this. Like, that's why we need to transition into worship leaders instead of song leaders. A worship leader thinks about all of these different things. And I really think of like when we go to Wichita Work Camp and we have this, really great worship leader, or you go to a youth rally and they have a great worship leader, and they always start off with those really fast songs, those really songs to get that energy, and then before you know it, you've transitioned and you've let down all your barriers, all your guards, and you're worshiping before God. And that's the same idea that you try to do for me in an icebreaker. Is I want to get the kids prepared and get to this place where they are open to learn about themselves, about their friends, about the people around them, and about God. And so shaving off those layers so that we can get to that as fast as possible.
Yeah. And I think, for me, it comes down to this idea that if you can't do this in this space with these people, you're taking yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
I remember being at a birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese. It was Dustin's birthday party. I remember the cake and I can remember the scene. He was probably 4 or 5. And at Chuck E. Cheese, the big mouse comes out and they have their little dance party up there. And, he wants to go, but he doesn't want to go by himself. And so I go up there on the stage with him and we're dancing with Chuck E. Cheese. And, my father-in-law said something like, what are you doing? Not in a condescending way, but just like you're acting crazy. It's like, man, life's too short to take yourself too seriously.
True that.
If people can't accept me embracing life with my 4 or 5-year-old son and enjoying these things, then, are they really somebody I need in my life? Because my family is going to see and go, that dude's crazy. Let's go get some food. They don't think less or that. And so it's about taking all those barriers down
Yeah.
The world we live in is already constructing barriers at record pace, it seems like.
Guarded.
Very guarded.
Mm-hmm.
And, to provide, it does two things. Number one, it tells the people that are with us, let your guard down. But also it tells them this is a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
And these are safe people for you to be vulnerable with, because you do have to open yourself up in a way that most people aren't typically comfortable in doing.
Yeah.
And so it's a personal thing, but it's also a group thing. And then it sets the tone for what's going on in that space, because we do those icebreakers in the space that we regularly come back to. And what you see over time is by Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of a camp,
mm-hmm.
people are involved quickly in those icebreakers.
Yeah.
Because what they were really, really concerned about on Sunday afternoon, now this has become a place where, oh no, this is just what we do.
Right.
And it's safe and it's welcoming, and we're all just dropping these things together. And that's the really cool progression to see. And I'm thinking about starting to use them in my adult Bible class, because we imagine them for kids,
mm-hmm.
But we think kids build walls and kids put up guarded areas in their lives. I mean, as adults, we're not good or adept at tapping into that childlike energy.
Sometimes you've never heard louder crickets than when you're in an adult Bible class and you ask a question, right? And it's just
or ask him to sing "Jesus Loves Me."
Yeah. Wait, is anybody actually here? Hold on. Sometimes you have to, break down those barriers, break down those walls, because if you cannot be who God created you to be with your brothers and sisters in Christ in a room, if you've created a church environment, and maybe it's not you, but maybe if your church environment is that environment, you think about this one aspect, right, of church, right? The invitation, right? Who goes forward on an invitation? Well, it's either really exciting because someone's baptized, or it's so-and-so. Yeah, I knew they were struggling with that. It's almost more taboo to go forward than it is just to go ask for prayers. And if we could get our congregations to be in the place of Friday or Sunday morning of a retreat, or the Friday of a church camp kind of a space, guys, I'm nervous about this week that's coming up. I have a really challenging week. I'm going to go forward on Sunday and get some prayers from the congregation in the church. Instead of it being like it's a big
taboo.
sin.
Yeah.
It ain't no little one, I mean, that's the place that we need to be. And it's not like if you do an icebreaker, you're going to get there, but it's thinking about the broader picture and the mindset, and then also revealing that to everybody about these barriers that we put, and that idea of being naked before the Lord, and that Jesus can read the hearts of men, and all of these kind of things where, it doesn't matter what you have on the outside, because God can really see us. So tell me, what do you think?
Don't do it.
When you think of, I was going to beat you to it. When you think of icebreakers, what's your behind the beard moment for this episode? When you want to reveal the truth behind icebreakers for youth ministry, for pulpit ministry, for ministry in general, what is it that you think of? What is it that people need to know about ministers and icebreakers?
Well, I'm going to say first, I don't think that what you see is an environment that's in the church. I think it is a perception that we have because of what the world has taught us about the way people will respond.
Absolutely.
And we have convinced ourselves of this lie that says, if I act a certain way, people will think less of me. And I just don't believe that's true in any of the church circles that we are in, or any of the churches that are there. But that doesn't change the fact that we have convinced ourselves that it's true.
Yeah.
And I believe the spaces that we have in churches are far more welcoming than we give them credit for. And, you know, certainly there are always, people have exceptions. People have those experiences where even church people have responded, you know, differently and maybe even, you know, in an unchrist-like manner. But as a general rule, Christian people are pretty welcoming of
Yeah.
people. I just have to get over myself.
Yeah.
I have to get over myself and be willing to take that step and say, you know what? I believe in the people that I'm around, and I'm going to make myself available and vulnerable. And when everyone else sees the response that comes, then that culture becomes what is more expected than the alternative, because we've made it obvious. And hey, that takes a different level of courage, though, to put yourself kind of in a space like that.
Yeah, it's amazing. That same fear of I'm gonna look silly doing this church appropriate dance moves, and everyone's gonna look at me, is the same fear that stops somebody from saying, I'm gonna look silly because I struggle with lust, and I need prayers, I need help. That same fear that stops people from getting involved in an icebreaker, that stops them from getting involved in their youth group, in their church, or doing something like that, is that same fear that goes through everything. And so if we can teach and learn, not just our teens, but our members and us in general. And also, I agree with you. Like, man, how many TV shows have I seen where, like, their depiction of church and what church is and what worship looks like and what a healthy congregation is so far from the truth of what it truly is. And do we believe those lies? I mean, it's just little things like that, you know, and it's the little things that I see. I never caught that until you said that. And I went, that is so true. That is like a lot of Hollywood. You know, it always frustrates me when I see Hollywood preachers, you know, in a TV show or something. I'm like, I hate that. Like, they're so wrong. And it's so like just this, you know, kind of an opinion or a view of somebody. But yeah, that's crazy.
And I'm gonna have to go figure out who this is over on. Right. It might be it's probably Chad Haviland, if I'm seeing his picture correctly, one of our members here. And you know, I think he's got a point there that, you know, that culture is definitely different geographically. But at the same time, I think there's different expectations in certain areas. But I think overall, I mean, I think you see the spirit pervade, even when there are different expectations otherwise, that there is an expectation of propriety. And that's probably more in the South than you find in some other places in the country. But that's just because culturally that's true as well. And so, okay. Just a Twitch user. Well, awesome. Well, Tim, it's good to have you with us, man.
Yeah, we're excited you're here, Tim.
Your picture looks like one of the guys that we go to that I go to church with up here. So, I think there's just so much that goes into it, and you know, that environment that we're in, you know, culturally definitely plays a role in all of those things that shape it, and some of that has to do with, because of this expectation that I have culturally. Yeah, I begin folding that same expectation onto the church, or the way they're going to treat me. Yeah, and God's people. And I just think, and maybe it starts with us as leaders, right? That I have to be willing to put myself in a space to trust the people, the community of God that I'm here with, to be in that space and say, look, I'm trusting you. Yeah. To be vulnerable before you. Because I tell you, sometimes as ministers, we're the world's worst at putting up this iron facade that says, I'm okay. Yeah, absolutely. I'm good. Not that I don't struggle with things, but the things I struggle with, they're little. Don't worry about it. I'm going to be cool. I'm here to help you. And we don't want to appear weak or less than when it comes into that space. And so being willing, I try to tell people every time they come up and say, hey man, that was a really good sermon. I appreciate it. You really spoke to me. I say, well, I speak to the mirror and I hope it speaks to someone else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been the way that I've worked to try to make something relevant and applicable from God's word. And maybe that's just the moment is just, number one is being aware that even the most corny of things that your minister might do or ask you to do, that silly little question that they ask you to answer or raise your hand on before a sermon starts,
right,
or that corny little activity they ask you to participate in at the beginning of a vacation Bible school or a retreat, that questionnaire that they ask you to fill out that just seems like you're too cool for school to do. They are created for a purpose. And if we will surrender to that purpose, then we will get so much more out of what is to come. And, we just need to embrace those things and learn to be better with and for one another so that we can really get to know who we are. Got anything to add?
I don't. That's a whole lot for us
on
to think
icebreakers.
about. And icebreakers. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how important like the dumbest little thing is. But it's all about setting that up, And Tim, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your questions. Steve, Partlow, Dad, glad you're here and glad you guys. I liked his point there that elders too. It doesn't just stop with ministers. It doesn't start with just elders either. I think it kind of goes for everybody, but especially. So we have to think about these things, but we also have to just be willing to participate. We want to thank you guys all for being here today. We also want to remind you of Galatians 6:9, and this is what's really important, guys. Walk away taking this from today's is Galatians 6:9. Do not grow weary in doing good. You just can't. This world is messy. This life is messy. So allow Christ to use you to do something different. Do something in God's name that's good, and don't grow weary in doing that. I'm Aaron, and this is Josh, and we will see you next week on Behind the Beards.
Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.